Welcome to Chia Chat. We've been talking a lot about secondary emotions, and we can't explore every single one, but there are at least two that are so prevalent in our society that I think it's important to talk about them. In addition, I am a good source as I have experienced both. Last time we talked about fear and how anxiety is under nervousness, which is a secondary emotion under fear. In this day and age, we see an increasing amount of anxiety and anxiety disorders. I want to try and help you understand the difference between the two and briefly educate you in a nutshell. Having dealt with anxiety disorders my whole life, but not knowing what they were until I was an adult, gives me an inside perspective and real-life experience to teach you. However, we are only scratching the surface here. It's important to understand anxiety is real, and it is not something you can run away from. People need to face it and seek treatment because it can affect your life in just as much way as if you had a physical limitation, say a heart condition, celiac disease, or an autoimmune disorder. You have to learn how to deal with it and adapt to certain circumstances. Just because no one can see physically that you have a disability doesn't mean it's not there. I've had to fight with myself nearly every day of my life with anxiety disorders. And I'm going to be very real and raw with you guys because unless we talk about our struggles, they become taboo and society can't heal or help each other. First, let's realize how anxiety feels in your body. It can include an upset stomach, feeling faint or dizzy, tunnel vision, not sleeping well, fast heartbeat, not being able to breathe regularly, headaches, repetitive movement, sweating, dry mouth, and even issues in the bathroom. And because it can be frustrating, emotional, and overwhelming, you can break down and cry. It really stinks. But pause the video to read more symptoms of anxiety. So let's look at the difference between anxiety and anxiety disorders because we all have anxiety. A Google search says that anxiety is when you feel worried, nervous, or uneasy about a certain outcome. Yes, at some point we will all experience stress. I'm going to give you a trigger warning right now. Take some deep breaths right now because I'm going to give you some instances where we all might have anxiety or stress, and just the thought of some of these may stress you out. Not having enough time to finish your work, practicing an instrument at first, conflict like disagreements or arguments, things aren't going the way you want, having to be somewhere on time, not having enough money, being injured, experiencing abuse, talking about politics and religion, having health concerns, issues in friendships or relationships, life change, public speaking, and more. These are all normal experiences in life that can give us stress. But the difference between having stress and anxiety or having an anxiety disorder that is diagnosed by a doctor is that anxiety or stress goes away after the stressor or event. Anxiety disorder is when that feeling of stress doesn't go away and it's all-consuming and interferes with your daily life. Imagine that feeling you get when your teacher says, okay, 5 more minutes to turn in your work, and you aren't done yet. Now, imagine if you had that feeling all the time. Whenever you're walking by yourself, with friends, in the middle of class or work, and no matter how much you try different things like meditation, prayer, exercise, breathing, etc., you can't escape it. That's because people like this were born with certain brain chemistry, or they experienced trauma in their life that altered their brain chemistry. So how can you tell the difference? So here we see that anxiety is a normal reaction to stress, and it can be triggered by specific instances. It has a start and an ending point. This can be kind of motivational and helping you accomplish a task, but it does disappear, and relaxing can help you feel better. Whereas an anxiety disorder suddenly kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's a very intense emotional response. It can be ongoing, lasting weeks or months, and it does interfere with your day-to-day life. For this one, you might want to pause the video and just kind of look over what might be stress or anxiety and what might be both, and ways to cope with it. If you feel one day like your stress is not going away, go to the doctor and they will be able to help you figure out if you have an anxiety disorder or if you are just going through a stressful time in your life. For me, my anxiety never went away, and I was always stressed and in a state of panic, but I didn't know why. Did you know there are different types of anxiety disorders? So you may say anxiety is an umbrella to the different types of anxiety disorders underneath. We're going to talk about 6 types of anxiety disorders. First is general anxiety disorder, or GAD. It's kind of an overall disorder where you can experience excessive, or more than the normal amount, of worrying, and sometimes for no reason. You just feel panicky, or like something bad is going to happen. You can have thoughts that come into your mind that you don't want, and you get very tired and exhausted. You wonder why you don't have the energy to do certain things, difficulty concentrating, and sometimes it's hard to get out of bed because you are feeling just so overwhelmed. This is one of the anxiety disorders I was diagnosed with. Second is social anxiety disorder. Most everyone gets nervous to perform or speak in front of people. That's normal. But with SAD, you have an intense fear of doing those things. No matter how hard you try or practice and get it perfect and ready, when it comes time to talk in front of people, perform music, speak up in a group, or even just talk to friends, you get stage fright, avoid the situation, or experience heart palpitations, lightheadedness, difficulty breathing, and more. It also includes an intense fear of being watched or judged by other people. I was also diagnosed with this in college. Thirdly, we have panic disorder. This is when you have sudden panic attacks for no reason. They may be triggered by something, but you suddenly find yourself losing control, trembling or shaking, not being able to breathe, and your heart rate is going through the roof. You can even have chills, sweating, or dizziness. You feel like your life is in danger somehow. It's like you got hit by a wave of an enormous amount of fear, and sometimes you may even need to throw up. When this happens to someone, you should let them have their space for the wave to just pass and be there to comfort and sit with them. You can say, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You are safe with me." Let's take a break and go over things not to say to someone who has anxiety, because these, from my experience and from other people's experience, are not helpful at all. Calm down. It's not a big deal. I've seen worse. I know how you feel. This may seem comforting, but to someone with anxiety, if you don't actually deal with anxiety, it's not helpful to say. Stop worrying. Have you tried blank? Yes, they probably have tried absolutely everything. It's all in your head. You're overthinking. You really don't have anything to worry about. To a person with anxiety, what they are feeling is real. It may be a diagnosed disorder, but their bodies are experiencing a real life or death threat. Worrying won't change anything. You aren't praying or reading your scriptures enough. In religions across the globe, people have begged God, sought spiritual blessings and practices, and dove into their scriptural canon to find relief from anxiety and depression. This can bring comfort and peace to many. People around the world will tell you from experience, our anxiety disorders will not disappear forever, no matter how faithful you are. And it's hard for people who don't deal with anxiety disorders to understand that. It's like asking God to grow back an amputated limb. It hasn't happened yet. Spiritual practices, meditation, exercise, and treatment can help ease the symptoms. but the disorder will not disappear. If you struggle with anxiety, I don't want you guys beating yourselves up because it's not going away when you think you aren't doing enough. Fourth, obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. Oh boy, this was the first one I was diagnosed with, and suddenly everything in my life made sense. To put it very simply, OCD is when you have intrusive, unwanted, and irrational thoughts, a need for order, fear of dirt and germs, urges to repeat actions and tics, and/or demanding reassurances. I could go on and on about this one, but yes, I have and do experience all of the above. I'm high functioning, but it does interfere with my life enough that I have a diagnosis. One example is that I would emotionally and religiously beat myself up over inappropriate thoughts or swear words that would come into my head. I thought I should be able to control them, but no matter how hard I tried or how spiritual I was, I couldn't get rid of them. I thought I was a terrible person. Another thing I do is tense up my throat muscles. I can't control it. It's like an urge or a need to do it, and if I don't, my brain tells me my life is in danger. It doesn't make sense, and I know it doesn't make sense, but that's why it's a disorder. Also, I have to be very thorough in my work, projects, assignments, and research. Perfectionism is a symptom of OCD because you want to do everything perfectly right, and if you don't, you feel like a failure. I also wash my hands a lot. If you want to reach out to me and talk more about it, I'm an open book. Fifth, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. This is when you have experienced a traumatic event in your life, like divorce, war, intense bullying, a death or a near death, a car accident, poverty, etc. It can also happen with compounded trauma over time, like abuse or mind control. You might have a panic attack, have flashbacks, be triggered by sound or situation, nightmares, and unwanted thoughts. Our sixth anxiety disorder is separation anxiety. I studied this one a lot in college because there are different types of attachments children experience from different types of parenting styles that lead to separation anxieties. But to put it simply, separation anxiety is what happens when you don't feel secure in your relationship. So being apart from that person you care about brings on feelings of fear, crying, worry, and alarm. I'm going to include an honorable mention, agoraphobia. I'm including this one just because it's so fascinating and we see it all the time on TV shows. This is when you have fear of leaving your house. Stepping outside feels like you're gonna die. More mild forms include avoiding places that will cause you embarrassment, feeling like you're trapped, being helpless, or situations that may cause panic. You fear places that are not your safe spot, that are difficult to escape if you are feeling triggered. Now, you may know a little more about anxiety than you did before. If so, then I did my job. Treatments can include medicine or therapies. You can also ease the symptoms short term, like I said, by exercise, meditation, spiritual practices, music, journaling, napping, and deep breathing. If you have a family member or friends who have anxiety, helpful things to say or do are, I'm here for you if you want to talk. I'm here to listen. I'll stay with you if you'd like. Or help them through a grounding technique if they want, like finding a certain number of things or colors in the room, using their senses to just be in the present moment. I can tell you're having a really hard time. Or just be patient and try to empathize. If you feel anxious, you can reach out to me and we can have a conversation about it and talk to your doctor for sure. Even though this was long, it really is a small presentation of anxiety, but it's such an important topic to explore. If I can help it, I want to help you be happy and healthy. I'll see you next time on another Chia Chat.